I shared with you when we began today that I have the privilege of pastoring a network of local churches called the Genesis Project. And the goal of the Genesis Project is to plant churches in some of the darkest and hardest areas of communities. And so we have a campus in New Orleans, we have a campus in Portland, Oregon, multiple campuses in Utah, Colorado, kind of spread out across the country in very urban, very tough, very hard environments. And one of the things that we've learned through that process is that reaching people in the darkest and hardest of times is a great missional model. It's not always a great financial model. The first thing that a recovering addict does when he walks through the church doors isn't to ask, hey, where do I drop this check? That's just not a reality. And so one of the things that we've done in one of our primary partnerships with Building God's Way over the last almost decade now, I've been dreaming through sustainable financial solutions for churches coming into facilities that cost a lot of money. And we've done a lot of things from hotels to event centers, shared workspace. I mean, we've run down just about every rabbit trail that you can imagine. And one of the things that we have stuck on as a missional model is childcare. Did you know that today in the United States of America, childcare is one of the fastest growing industries in our nation? Reason being because it is becoming more and more expensive for families to survive in our world when gas is nearing $5 a gallon in many places in our country. We find that moms and dads are both having to go to work, leaving a gap in childcare. And our childcare partner, Lionheart Children's Academy, has really filled a void at BGW in bridging together financial solutions for churches in using their space and a missional model in reaching young families, helping churches that are getting older become younger by capitalizing on that 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. space that parents need help with their children. 5 days a week, we have the opportunity to impart the gospel and introduce kids to Jesus that are largely coming from secular families and secular communities, which means that not only does childcare become an economic engine that moves the church forward and makes a lot of these conversations we're talking about today realistic, but also becomes a missional model of growth. Because let me tell you that one of the most effective means of introducing a family into your church that has never experienced church before is by sending home a 2, 3, 4-year-old missionary that begins to tell them about the stories and experiences they're having at school. Today, Nate McClintock is here with us. Nelson Eagle is here. You will see an example of a missionary model childcare center functioning right here in this building that really makes this financially feasible for this church right here at Brookhaven. And we would love to share with you the heart of Lionheart, but also have a conversation with you about how this might fit into your community and how we can dream as missional entrepreneurs and say, how do we turn a building into two things? Number one, an economic engine, but most importantly, a kingdom engine that brings people flow through your building and gives you an opportunity day in and day out to minister to that community. Let me give you a great example. A child care center like this one has over 200 kids that come and go every day, which gives you the touch point of many first-time visitors coming to your church that have never stepped foot into a service. And let me promise you that one of the most anointed things that you can do for a mom or a dad at 6 a.m. in the morning dropping their kids off is a cup of coffee. Just to tell them that they're loved, that they're being prayed for, and that they matter to you. I want to introduce you guys to Stan Dobbs, the founder of Lionheart, as he shares the mission and vision of this critical ministry with you guys today. Check it out on the screen.
Well, the vision of Lionheart actually was born in a hospital bed at MD Anderson Cancer Center in 2011, of all places. I had started another ministry about 20 years ago called Apartment Life, and it had quickly become all-consuming, and I was giving my entire life to that for a number of years. But I'd been battling cancer off and on since I was in seminary, and it became pretty serious in 2011. And the last bullet in my gun was to have a stem cell transplant. So I had to basically go offline for about a year, move to Houston. And during that season, I read a book by George Barna called Raising Children to be Spiritual Champions. And it was a life changer. Because in there, Barna makes the case that we have until a person's 13th birthday to reach them with the gospel. Or statistically speaking, he says we never will. And he lays out a very compelling case for that. I've subsequently called that the gospel shot clock, from birth to the 13th birthday, because he says the vast majority of people will come to know Jesus during those years. So my prayer became, Lord, what's the next big idea to greatly deepen the penetration of the gospel in those years, from birth to 12? How do we reach a lot more children? Come to find out that the only other natural spike in spiritual receptivity other than the gospel shot clock is when people start having children, when they're young parents. They become spiritually sensitive and try to figure out, do I want to pass on my worldview to my child? And so they start reevaluating spiritual things. So these early years are very important for reaching children and for reaching young families. So, Lord, how do we reach a lot more children? Well, it turns out that the key to that is some significant shifts in women's participation in the labor force over the last 60 years. Now, the vast majority of women are working full-time outside the home. And so the experience of children is, from a very early age, they're in childcare because mom is working, or mom and dad are both working, from 6 weeks old all the way through preschool. Then if they enter the public school system, they're typically in an after-school program until mom and dad get off work. And then they're in some type of childcare or camp experiences all summer long. So those three industries, if you will, the preschool industry, the after-school industry, and the summer industry, in my view, are highly strategic for the future of the gospel, because they're windows into the lives of these children and in their families during these very critical years. But as you look at it, what has happened is that the secular companies now dominate all those industries. 75% market share is large corporations that are totally secular that control preschool, after school, and summer programs. In fact, most moms in the churches that we've researched that are looking for an option that is evangelical, there's either little to no options in many, many areas. And the reason is most churches are offering either nothing during the week or part-time programs that are serving stay-at-home moms, 2-day a week, 3-day a week, Mother's Day out type programs. And if a mom's looking for full-time care, she has to look elsewhere. And the reason is because operating full-time child care academies is operationally very challenging. It's regulated, it has government regulation, and frankly, it's just not the core business that churches are in. And so the big idea of Lionheart is, how can we empower churches to offer these types of programs to attract secular families that are needing high quality, affordable childcare, and use that as a platform to get into their lives, love them, serve them, share the gospel with them, and get them connected to the church. And so churches have beautiful facilities that many of are underutilized during the week. They have lots of people that love kids and can staff these programs, but they need an operating partner. And so Lionheart has invested a lot of time and energy and money in building a brand and operating systems and all the playbook, if you will, to empower churches to launch and operate full-time children's academies that are targeting secular families that are using secular childcare to get them out of that environment, get them on the campus of the church all during the week, and again, use that as a vehicle to build a deep relationship with them, love them, share the gospel with them, and then it's a very natural connection to the church. Very simple, but very powerful.